Hi guys, it's the Old Man Calling. If you've been watching these videos on the Old Man Calling channel, you know that what I'm doing is showing you a shift of awareness, a simple shift of awareness that almost anyone can do. That's a gateway to aware consciousness. So I'll show you it again in a few minutes. There's nothing difficult about it. But to make a real difference in your life, as some of you are already getting into this, you're going to need to do this shift of awareness, if you like, to make this shift of awareness kind of second nature, and do it in every quiet moment in every day. And then what you're doing there is you're turning a shift of awareness into the practice of aware consciousness all day, every day. And that's what I'm all about, is showing you a way to develop a practice of living in the moment and being fully focused on the experience of being right here, right now, rather than living in your head a lot of the time. So that's what this channel's all about. And today I want to talk about what I think is an important aspect of when you come to take this simple shift of awareness, it becomes second nature, and you turn it into an all-day, everyday practice. An important part of that practice makes a big difference is having a quiet mind. And before you think, well, I haven't got a quiet mind, what am I supposed to do about that? Let me tell you a story. Many, many years ago, nearly 50 years ago, I went overland with a girlfriend of mine to India, and then spent another 3 years wandering around India. And that was a time that, let me say, I'd already been into aware consciousness for a few years then, and I went there with a sense of freedom that I could kind of do anything I wanted in life, really, just living in the moment. I was an existentialist at that time, and I had a sense of adventure for the freedom of this living in the moment experience that I'd had a few years earlier, and that really changed my life and freed me from all the everyday baggage of that I was carrying around, had been carrying around at that time. So with that sense of freedom, I went with Eleanor overland to India. It was a 9-month journey, hitchhiking and finding our way. And we arrived in India with very, very little money. And I went on to live in India and travel around in India for 3 years. And that was where I discovered meditation. I'd been into aware consciousness, or relative time and space, I used to call it at that time. And I was really into living in the moment. But I hadn't heard about meditation, and I never heard the word enlightenment. So it was a life-changing few years for me. The story I wanted to tell you about that was a time when I was in Goa. And don't forget, we're talking nearly 50 years ago, before that became a popular tourist destination. And Goa was full of people who were either at one of the beaches, sex and drugs and rock and roll. So a lot of smokers there, a lot of stoned people. And then there was Chipora, which was a kind of place where you could find chai shops and plenty of places, houses to rent, and a lovely place to live with beaches. I lived on the beach in a cave. And, this is the 1970s I'm talking about. And then further along, about 12 miles north, Arambor, which was kind of place where you lived in nature, lived under the trees, and it was full of people who were really into slowing down and tuning into nature. And we were nearly everybody there was into meditation. So one day, I was sitting with a friend of mine in a chai shop on the beach in Chipora, and a busload of tourists came over, and they looked like they were probably had flown in from Europe and arrived in Goa. And we sat there in the chai shop, and you must kind of understand that, you know, I was hanging out with the people who lived in India for a long time. So we'd all kind of slowed down and adapted to life in India, where we didn't have anything much to do. We just could spend all day, every day, meditating effectively. So when this gang of people appeared on the beach, it was quite noticeable how they were kind of racing around, and how kind of agitated and busy and they were, you know. And it was very clear to us, you know, that it took people arriving in India like that on an aeroplane, dumped right into the middle of India, about 6 weeks to slow down. You see what I mean? I'm not talking about slowing down, walking slowly, talking slowly, you know, that I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about quietening down, having a quiet mind. And I'm talking about how you and I, living in our Western countries, almost certainly have very busy, lively, intellectually curious, busy, noisy minds. We may not be aware of it, but most of us have spent 12 years, 15 years, 20 years in education. And we've been taught right from the first few years, starting with our mum and dad telling, teaching us the name of things and how to talk and, you know, how to speak. And then we learn how to think about things. And we went into an education where we've developed this conceptual way of engaging with life. So we become real experts at engaging with life through words and ideas and concepts. And the result of that, or perhaps the accidental result of that, is that we've all got noisy minds. So what I want to talk about today, for anyone who wants to take this simple shift of awareness, I'll show you in a minute, and to turn it into an all-day, everyday practice of aware consciousness, as in, have your life be about living in the moment, focused on the experience of being. Yeah, for anyone who wants to do that, which I guess is most of you because you're watching this video, an important part of that is quietening down, having a quiet mind. So I do have some recommendations about how you can do that. And I would like to add, for people like you and I who are living busy, everyday lives, maybe working, and we've got families, and in other words, we haven't gone to live in a cave in the Himalayas, and we haven't gone to live in a monastery and, you know, spend years and years and years quietening down our minds. I would like to have, it's important to have a quiet mind at least some of the time. And I can show you how to, I recommend that you go about accelerating that process. But first, let me take you through this simple shift of awareness that I've showed some of you before, which is a gateway to aware consciousness. So the first thing I want you to do is to consider what's going on right now and start to distinguish between this busy, noisy way of engaging with life, talking, listening, understanding, you and I using a language. We're engaging with life on the base of this language. We've got a name for everything: books, a shelf, a cushion. We've got a name for everything, and we talk and we think and we engage with life even when we're using technology. However, you and I, as human beings, engage with life as modern 21st century first world human beings engage with life in a noisy, busy way, conceptually. right? So 95% of our time when we're not talking or listening, not understanding things, we're thinking. All of that is on the basis of this language we use, which is obviously very, very useful, and we can tell stories and we live our lives as if our lives are stories, and that we've got this idea that that the past exists and the future exists, and we live our lives as if we're progressing from where we were then, what we were doing then, to what we're going to be doing in the future. So that's our relationship to time and space. And part of an important part of aware consciousness, and a gateway to aware, is to realize that there's another way of engaging with life, another way of engaging with time and space. And let me show you a gateway to that. There's a traditional gateway that I share. This is the gateway to aware consciousness that I use, and I show it to you in this traditional way by saying, bring your attention to the sensation going on in your left hand. That's a traditional way I use in this video. So bring your attention to the sensation going on in your left hand. Okay? So if you manage to do that, you've discovered something in life that is not about words and ideas and concepts. It's a sensation. Big deal, you're saying. But bear with me. What I'm saying is, focusing on that sensation right now, it's not difficult to bring your attention into the moment, is it? Is a gateway to aware consciousness. A gateway to another way of engaging with life that's not about words and ideas and concepts. So where we've got to so far is that you and I engage with life, engage with each other 95% of our time when we're thinking, talking, interacting in any way with other human beings conceptually. So that's the first thing I want you to get. What I'm showing you now is another way of engaging with life. And I'm doing that by getting you to bring your attention to the sensation going on in your left hand. Bring your attention to that sensation going on right now. So come into the moment. And then the next thing is give up control. See what happens. And what happens with me, confident that it's happening with you right now, is that if you just stay in the moment, bring your attention to the sense moment, the sensation in the moment happening. What happens is your attention shifts into what I call the sensational world, and you become aware of a flow of sense moments. So for me, for instance, I become aware of that sensation there, and then I become aware of my arm resting on my leg here, and then my back resting against the chair, my foot's resting on the floor, my elbows resting on this shelf, and so on. So a flow of sense moments. I've given up control. This is not me controlling it. What this is consciousness continues to bring our attention to one sense moment after another, after another. We just stay in the moment. That's not difficult. Watch. Become aware of. This is aware consciousness. So you're becoming aware of consciousness, moving your attention around from one sense moment to another, to another. Okay? There's nothing difficult about that. I hope you didn't find that difficult. It's the thing about it is that while you might stop, I mean, I'm fairly static here, consciousness is ongoing. Consciousness is the way that you and I and all us human beings have been engaging with life all the time from the moment we were born till right now. It's one of the fundamental ways that us human beings engage with life. It may be that we just haven't been aware of it. So what we're doing here is practicing aware consciousness. We're becoming aware of consciousness. Let me ask you to include your other senses in this flow of sense moments. So I may become aware of that I'm looking at something, that I am hearing the sound of life right now. I become aware of the taste of the inside of my mouth. And then consciousness brings my attention back to my elbow, and then this hand and my back, and sounds of the world, the sound of life right now. Just stick with that for a few moments in this give up control, allow consciousness to bring your attention to a flow of sense moments, including moments of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, maybe smelling. Okay. So what I'm showing you there is it's a meditative awareness exercise when we're just doing it like this. But what it also is another way of engaging with life that's not conceptual. It's not to do with words and ideas and concepts. It's experiential. What we're doing is tuning into living in the moment, fully focused on the experience of being right here, right now. This is the experience of being. What I like to point out, a couple of things I like to point out at this point is, one, let's bring our attention back into aware consciousness. This is called being aware of consciousness. Aware consciousness is that in this realm, in this way of engaging with life, you're not there as a separate self. What life consists of in this realm, in this way of engaging with life, is a flow of sense moments. You give up control, you disappear. What's there is a flow of sense moments. Consciousness brings our attention to one sense moment after another, after another, after another. Just sit with it for a moment. Okay. And the other thing that it's important for me to mention at this point is to recognize that you and I, we're kind of addicted to that conceptual way of engaging with life. Hey, I'm talking, you're listening, you're understanding, I'm using a language. A language is made up of words and ideas and concepts. So you and I spend 95% of our time engaging with life conceptually. We might not have even been aware of another way of engaging with life, this experiential way of engaging with life when we practice aware consciousness, which is always available to us, just that simple shift of awareness that I just showed you. But unfortunately, because we spent years learning how to engage with life conceptually, what always happens is that that's the only way we know how to engage with life. So what always happens is that our everyday minds, this is the way we've learned to think, kick back in, and we find ourselves engaging with life conceptually. But that's just the way we know. That's the way we communicate. It's the way we interact with other humans, and it's the way we speak to ourselves in our head. So that's the way we know how to engage with life. And unfortunately, although it's very simple, I've just showed you how to shift your awareness into living in the moment, fully focused on the experience of being in a universe of being. Although it's simple to do that shift away, you can do it any time. You don't have to shift your awareness into your left hand. Obviously, consciousness is ongoing. So anytime you remember, you want to shift your awareness into living in the moment, you can just shift your awareness into whatever sense moment consciousness brings your attention to right now, and give up control and just watch as consciousness shifts your attention from one sense moment to another. And then you're living in the moment and you're fully focused on the experience of being right here, right now. Okay? So it's easy enough to shift into aware consciousness, but it proves to be more difficult to stay tuned into that, because what happens with you and me is that our everyday minds, that conceptual way of engaging with life that we all learn, that's the only way we learn to engage with life, it kicks back in again, doesn't it? You find yourself thinking, probably, good number of you now, it's already happened. Your mind is kicking back in and you're thinking about this or that or the other. So you need to have a way of dealing with that. If you want to practice aware consciousness and you want to turn this simple shift of awareness I've just shown you into an all-day, everyday practice, so that you spend more and more of your time living in the moment and tuned into the experience of being, rather than engaging with life by, in your head, conceptually, with words and ideas and concepts. If you want to do that, you have to have a way of dealing with what happens when your mind kicks back in. Here's the way to deal with that. The way you deal with that is when you notice, it's about noticing. This is about awareness. It's an awareness exercise. If you want to turn it into an all-day, everyday practice, it's about noticing when your mind kicks back in. And then when you notice that your mind has kicked back in, you choose to shift your awareness back into aware consciousness. You don't get into an internal dialogue, debate, or judging yourself or working out how aware you are, or any of that nonsense. You just simply shift your awareness back into aware consciousness in that way that I've shown you. And you find yourself back into living in the moment, fully focused on the experience. This is an experiential realm. So what I want to talk about is that this experiential realm is an essentially quiet, peaceful, and untroubled realm. Whatever's going on around you in your everyday life, in this realm, when you engage with life in this way, which you can do any time of the day or night, this is what we're talking about, taking this up as an all-day, everyday practice. One of the characteristics of it is that it's a quiet realm. And it helps, it's important, if you want to spend more time in this realm of aware consciousness, to have a quiet mind. Now, I've recommended in some of the other videos a way, the best way I know, of accelerating that process to get a quietening down your mind is by having a daily half-an-hour meditative awareness exercise session, where you basically find yourself a quiet, peaceful space, and you lie down or sit down. I lie down on top of the bed covers and I look at a blank ceiling. So look at something that doesn't fascinate your mind, a blank wall or a blank ceiling, with your eyes open, and just spend half an hour, stick a digital timer on, spend half an hour every day in that quiet, peaceful environment where there's nothing going on except you watching that process of your mind kicking back in and then choosing to shift your attention back into aware consciousness, where the prize, if you like, where your aim is to hear the world exactly as it is right now, to touch, focusing on the touch of the world right now, focusing on you're looking at a blank ceiling or blank wall, when that blank ceiling or blank wall turns into an amazing experience of vision, if you like, when you start to realize that that space in front of your eyes is an alive space. It's not something that's static and empty. That's just your everyday mind telling you that. It's an amazing alive space. What I wanted to say today is that that's where the importance of having a quiet mind is that the wonder of every moment, the wonder of life itself, the wonder of just seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting life in the moment only really reveals itself when you have a quiet mind. And what I'm saying is the way you can accelerate that, having a quiet mind, and shift from having an everyday noisy mind and our everyday noisy lives to developing a quiet mind, is by having this half an hour meditative awareness exercise session. Build that into your day. I know it may not be easy, but this is the way that I'm recommending that you shift, you change that simple awareness exercise that you can do any time of the day or night, whatever's going on around you in your noisy, busy life. The way to turn that into a 24/7 practice that doesn't just kind of help in a little way, it completely changes and transforms your life. And it opens up the possibility for you to have a life that's not just about those busy things that you're involved in your everyday life, but you get a completely different view of life and a completely different engagement with life, which is quiet, peaceful, calm, and untroubled, whatever's going on around you in life, by practicing aware consciousness. A very useful part of that I'm recommending to you is to have a half an hour a day aware consciousness session. If you want to know how to do that in more detail, on my website, aware-consciousness.com, I've put what effectively is a 7-day guide for you to use as on the first 7 days that you take up this daily aware consciousness practice. So if you want to get into that, go to my website and you'll find basically a 4-hour course divided down into 7 sections, which are like me guiding you through the first 7 days and making it as clear and giving you a real strong, clear, resilient start to that practice of aware consciousness. So, did you understand what I was saying about the importance of having a quiet mind? And from remembering those people who flew into, it was Goa, all those years ago, and the way that it took them 6 weeks to quieten down. I hope that some of you can really identify with that and realize that, because we're not monks and we haven't retreated to a cave in the Himalayas, you and I have noisy minds, and we're choosing a lifestyle where we use our intellectual curiosity and we're interacting on the basis of words and ideas and concepts a lot of the time. So our minds are noisy. And if you want to reveal the wonder, the amazing wonder, the extraordinary aspect of life itself that is revealed when you practice aware consciousness, then the important part of that is just to make that extra step. Don't just do that simple shift of awareness, but as part of making it an all-day, everyday practice, work on developing a quiet, peaceful, untroubled mind at least part of the time. Once you've seen, once you're familiar with how full of wonder, how extraordinary life itself is, when you get to the point where you can look at a blank ceiling and what you see is a field of aliveness, what you've got there is a way of engaging with life where every moment, think about it, you're looking at a blank ceiling and what you're seeing is life itself. It's extraordinary. So what you've got there is the beginnings of realizing just how wonderful, full of wonder, and how extraordinary every moment of every day is. That's called practicing aware consciousness. Okay, guys, enjoy, get into the practicing aware consciousness. Don't forget to subscribe to the Old Man Calling, like, share, tell your friends about this stuff. It's great stuff. Practice aware consciousness. Live in the moment, fully focused on the experience of being right here, right now. It's full of wonder. See you later. Bye, guys.